our music work. This is Brothers Sisters, Smart Some Fun, and you can hear by our cool jams that we're almost too cool to listen to today. Dude, we've got the cool vibes going today. Dan and Jenny having a show. Outside the sun's down, it's starting to glow. What's happening? We're gonna talk about movies that are guilty. Okay, that's all I got. Okay, we're gonna stop listening to that music now. Whew, okay.
Ooh,
I'm sorry you guys had to hear that.
that was getting too cool for me. So I was good.
I'm sorry, I know.
We're in danger of making it uncool.
I know. Well, that usually happens. Everything gets so cool until we've made it uncool. So maybe that should be our tagline. If you want something to be not cool, put it on our show. Oh, that's a good idea. So if you've got teenage daughters that are into a thing and you don't want them to be into that thing anymore, tell us to talk about it on our show and it will no longer be cool. So yeah.
Exactly. That can't be, it'd only be worse if your like elementary school aged sibling was into it then too.
Then you know it is extremely not cool. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm messing around with all of our fun stuff right now. There's all of these different things on StreamYard that you can play with, and so right now I'm playing with all of the stuff and the brand and it's just pretty much having a really good time with it all. So,
Cool.
anyway, here we are. You are listening to the Brother Sisters Smart Dumb Fun. I am Janice Brothers,
and I am Ann Brothers,
and we're sisters. So, I know, and it's Sunday, and you may or may not be listening to this. Is like that Sunday where it's between football games. So we had the conference championships last week, and next week is the Super Bowl. And so now it's this week of just like, oh, there's no football. I know you're not really into it anyway.
I am so okay with it not having football. Not that I ever pay attention to it anyway. Honestly, I didn't even know there wasn't football. I wouldn't have known if there was football.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so there's no football this week. So this is a perfect time for you to, if you've not checked us out before, this is a perfect time for you to check us out because there's no football getting in your way to checking us out. So that's, everybody's winning. So yeah.
Free.
I know. And so here we are. The good news is we have survived January of 2024. We are now, here we are on February 4th. It is already 4 days into February. And I was telling Joe as we went walking on Western Michigan's campus today because it's a nice place to walk. Lots of sidewalks, lots of hills. So it's a challenging walk. And here we are, it's 50 degrees and it's nice. And I'm like, you know what? This is a February that I can get behind. And Joe mentioned that, there's like, yeah, it's like, never mind that it's going to be ticks everywhere, in a month. And, already, one of our friends in Wisconsin already posted that they're already seeing ticks in Wisconsin. So I'm like, yeah, it's going to be great. So
ticks, mosquitoes, all kinds of good stuff.
Yep. More spiders than normal. So yeah, it's, global warming. It's grand, isn't it?
Well, we got to have something to eat the ticks and the mosquitoes. More spiders.
More spiders. Excellent. So it's all the great circle of life. Your chickens are going to be so happy this year.
Oh, I know. They're great tick eaters. They love to eat ticks. They're like, yeah, bring it on. They're probably already eating some out there. They were out all day today, outside of their run, probably eating lots of ticks.
Probably. Well, shall we get into today's content? We might as well jump into that.
Yes.
All right. So today is all about guilty pleasures. So normally we had planned on doing this show last week, but fortunately, Michigan Storm Chasers had some openings, some time, and they gave us a bunch of time last week, which was fantastic. And so we pushed back our guilty pleasure movies to this week. And normally what we do is we would do this in January because January is the place where studios put movies to die. It's their worst movies, and they release them in January because no one's paying much attention anyway. So it's just a good place to dump your movies. And so we were kind of talking about movies that are especially bad, but we like them anyway. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So before we do that, though, let's go ahead and talk about our little synopsis. So if you're a first-time viewer or listener, these are some things that you should know about the Brothers Sisters and our show. The first thing is that we are Ann and Janice Brothers, aka Jenny Brothers. Our last name is really Brothers, and we are sisters. Therefore, we are the Brother Sisters. Jazz hands. See, big flourish, because that's the best part. We are 50s. We are through and through Gen X. This means that we learned about our opera and classical music by watching Bugs Bunny cartoons. I mean, honestly, yeah, I mean,
Barber of Seville. Yeah.
yep. The opera one. I
Mhm.
can't remember
What
the
is
name of
it?
that one.
Valkyrie. What is it? The whatever.
Yeah. Yes. We are not cool, hip, or sexy. So relax. You don't have to be either. It's okay. Just be yourselves. That's what Grandma Brothers got me this little plaque. I don't know, when I was in like third or fourth grade, and it was just this little turtle dancing, and it just said, being yourself is a great way to be. And you know what? I love that plaque. And that's basically what been my mantra forever. Hey, Julie is with us.
Hey,
Um,
Julie.
Julie, how's it going? This is a friend of ours, longtime listener. What's up, ladies? No football getting in the way. That's right.
Mhm.
Don't have to worry about annoying football. We'll deal with annoying football next week. And it would have been different, I think, if the Lions had won last week and managed to be the Super Bowl. I think it would feel a little bit differently. But Julie, we are super glad that you are here with us. Boom, we are awesome. I know, jazz
Thanks,
hands,
Julie. Jazz hands.
not spirit fingers, jazz hands, which are totally different. So I'm glad you know that. As far as what kind of podcast we are not a murder or celebrity or influencer podcast. Um, and you were right. We are even better than that. We are the
Mhm,
podcast you turn to when you just don't know what else to turn to. So
mhm.
there. We've been told we're good to listen to when you're on a long drive, a short drive. Um, if you're just sitting in your car eating your chicken McNuggets, we're good for that too. So you can find us on Julie. Glad you're doing great. Love you too.
Mhm.
Completely and totally awesome. You can find us on our website, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, or the Instagram. When we open and close the show, you'll see a QR code on our little promo page there. If you scan that, that will take you to our webpage, and then all of our other stuff is linked on there. Our Spotify or YouTube, all that is linked on our website, so you can get to it there. Let's see, what else do you need to know about us? This is not a rated PG or G or PG-13 podcast. Not that we do anything explicit or gross, but there will be some swears and some mature content sometimes.
Mhm.
So if you're listening with the kids, just let them know that you might have to explain what the word bitch ass means. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay?
They probably already know. Maybe they can explain it to you.
Maybe. Hey, Donna Clark is with us. Hi, Donna Clark. How are
Donna
you?
Clark, what's up?
Yay. Donna Clark is with us
Mhm,
in the house. Right
mhm.
on. All right. So some stuff about all right. So each week we talk about smart, dumb, fun stuff. That's the name of our podcast after all. And why don't you start us off with your fun stuff this week?
Okay, my fun stuff was that my niece Kylie, she is an amazing baker, and she made macarons, but she made them into conversation hearts to celebrate the Valentine season. And my sister and my friend and sister-in-law Liz sent me a picture of them, and I was like, oh, I just thought they were so amazing. I was like, I don't know if I should eat them or make jewelry out of them. So she's like, well, you want me to send you some? And then she overnighted them to me. Of course, it was,
What?
I know, it
Liz,
was,
that's awesome.
of course, it was United States Postal Service. So it took 2 days, 2 nights, not one, but we got them. And I loved them so much. You know, some of them were like very traditional and some of them were very snarky. And she did it all by hand, you know, so she did the hearts all by hand. I am Kylie, I'm so very impressed. I just thought that was the coolest thing. Of course, we ate them all in like one setting because they were not very big, so it's like, you know, you could just like nom, 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 nom. But
That's my
yeah.
favorite kind of food,
So
man. Yep.
that was my fun thing this week was that my niece Kylie made conversation hearts, macarons, and my friend Liz and sister-in-law mailed them to me, wrapped them all up, mailed them to me so that I could have them, and they were amazing.
You can enjoy a delicious Valentine's treat made by little Kylie's hands. I love that.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Well, I actually have something smart going on right now. It's so funny. I've actually started, I've started seeing a counselor because I'm having some I would say career crisis sort of thing. So thought maybe I could kind of sort of unstick myself. And so I learned from my nice counselor lady this week that I have to work on positive self-talk, that I'm not great. Oh, wait, before we get on with that, Liz wants you to know that she is making more right now. So
Yes. Yes. Victory. This is what victory looks like.
it looks like Anne, who's going to get her some more macarons. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Uh, Thank you, Liz. That's awesome. Let's see. So yeah, my therapist said I have to start doing more positive self-talk. And so I found this week, and it made me think, hey, it says you did not wake up to be a weak ass bitch today. And I'm like, that's pretty much how I feel every morning. And I feel like that's positive self-talk. Is that right? Does this count as positive self-talk?
Well, you got out of bed, so it's talk.
Well, see, and that's just my thing. I'm like, if it gets me out of bed, then isn't that positive?
Positive. Jenny, I wish I could disagree with you, but my therapist is also trying to get me to do positive self-talk. And I was like, can't I just yell at myself? Can you yell at me? I'm just more comfortable if you yell at me, because then I can yell back at you and it'll be awesome.
Yeah, I think that's why I prospered under the tutelage of Carol Griffith. If you're listening, Carol, sorry, but let's be honest.
Mine was Annette Martin. So it's
Yo, I think that's why Annette never bothered me when we were doing Bra Strap together, and she would go on one of her things. It never bothered me because I'm like,
me neither.
she's the oral interpretation slash theater arts version of Carol Griffith. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can totally manage this.
Exactly. It was like, what, an authoritative woman yelling at me? Awesome. I'm home.
Right. I'm like, this is not different than say yesterday.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think positive self-talk has different annotations, and
Mhm.
I think that's a positive regardless of whether it's right or wrong. I don't even know.
I'm going to
All right,
get
so
better at it. That's my goal. I'm going to get better at it.
you're gonna get better at positive self-talk or
I
better
am.
at okay, okay,
I am. That's my goal. Better at it. At least
okay.
to me. Yeah.
That's good.
Mhm.
That's good. And if you need me to help you with that, okay. It's hard though because I don't know when you're not being positive self-talking to yourself. So I'll just
Well,
remind you that positive self-talk and brothers. So
positive self-talk.
okay,
Exactly.
good. All right, so let's get into our content this week. Now, one of the things that we decided what we had to talk about first is so we've talked about guilty pleasure movies before, and we've done it before, and because it kind of morphs and changes, you'll
Mhm.
see things and be like, "Oh, I forgot about this movie. I'm going to add this to my list," or ones that kind of fall away because they're not even pleasurable to watch anymore. So first things first, this is what makes a movie a guilty pleasure movie. Okay, so they are kind of like this. So number one, the movie has to be not well reviewed in the first place. So there are certain movies that no matter what, you'll sit down and watch them, but they're actually really good movies.
Mhm.
Um, so it's a movie that's not well reviewed by pretty much anyone, critics or audiences alike. The movie's probably not aged well. There are many. It has more than one really cringy moment, and that moment is usually something misogynistic or racist or homophobic, and you're just like,
Ooh,
"Ooh,
or all
ew,"
of them.
or all of the above. Probably you can check every box. It's full of bad or at least highly questionable science. Um, Yeah, Twister, wink, wink. It's full of physically impossible stuff. Yes, cliffhanger, I'm talking to you. And probably that's pretty much everyone on my list. It's
Mhm.
dumb, it's cheesy yet delicious. And despite all of these things, anytime it's on TV, I will stop whatever I'm doing and watch it, even if I own the movie, and I'll sit through the commercials if it's on regular TV.
I was like, oh, yay, it's on TNT. Hooray.
Correct. I'm like, I literally could just go to Prime and watch it without commercials, but I'm gonna sit here and watch it on TNT
Mhm.
and watch all of the State Farm commercials with it.
Exactly.
And then you have that moment, you're like, "What's wrong with me? Nothing."
It's positive self-talk. I
Positive
can't
self-talk.
hear
I
the negative
positively
self-talk in my head if I'm watching this movie.
correct. I'm like, "I positively love this movie."
Mhm.
Alright, so, Anne, why don't we start with yours? Why don't you take us through so this is a quick, a video or a visual of
Mhm.
Anne's movies, and you describe them as being terribly watchable, which is very true.
Yes, terribly watchable. I if you wanna go to the next slide, I'll put them in order for us.
Okay, let's
5 my number 5 is The Rock. This, came out in 1996. It's directed by Michael Bay.
of course it
Every
is.
Michael Bay movie is terrible. Um, all of them are terrible. In fact, some of them, you can only watch them if it's on mute. That's how bad they are. But for
Yep.
some reason, I can't pass this up. Probably because it has Ed Harris in it, and I am a big fan of Ed Harris. And one of the times I watched this movie, it was on like Channel 50 out of Detroit or something, and I was babysitting this kid. I won't say his name, but he was a
I know
super
exactly who
fun
you're talking about.
he was a super fun kid, super imaginative, loved Star Wars, and he always had like the good guys and the bad guys. And he was probably about 10 or 11 when we watched this together, and I was trying to explain to him how you could be a good guy but with bad motives, or you do something bad, and that was Ed Harris's character, and he was like could not understand that. And then we were watching it, and after that I noticed all his imaginative play had a good guy, a bad guy, and a good guy who did bad things, and I just thought that was so cute. So I have a little nostalgia for this movie, this terrible Michael Bay movie, before it with Nicolas Cage, before he went off the deep end. Sean Connery. Why? Because why not?
Sean Connery is a Scottish, what, Scottish escape artist, you know?
Exactly. That's exactly it. How could you not watch a movie where Sean Connery is a Scottish escape artist?
Totally. Totally.
So that's my number 5. My number 4 is Olympus Has Fallen. And this came out in 2013, directed by Anton Fuqua. You can watch it
Wow.
on Prime. Thank you very much. You can watch it on Prime. Same with The Rock. I think you have to pay for them both, but hey. This is starring Gerard Butler, because at least one Gerard Butler movie had to be on my worst best movie list. It also has Aaron Eckhart in it and Morgan Freeman. It's action, nonstop action, terrible dialogue. There is a child in it, but he's not in it for very long, which is good. It's Man, I just cannot stop. It's got North Koreans as bad guys, so yeah, we can still hate them, right? It is terrible, action packed. Gerard Butler. Oh man, again, you should probably watch it on mute.
You really don't need to know what's being said. There really is nothing uh
It's nothing.
earth-shattering that no.
Exactly. It's nothing you can't follow strictly through visual.
Correct. I'm like, I can pretty much get what's going on here. I get it. So, yeah.
Exactly. So, my number 3 movie is Cliffhanger. This was in 1993. Again, you can watch it on Prime. It was directed by Rennie Harlin, and it's starring Sylvester Stallone and John Lithgow. Now, this movie is visually really stunning. I mean, it's like it can freak you out. The first time I saw it was in a theater, and I was like, yeah, it gives you vertigo. I mean, it's like, oh, it's so scary. And John Lithgow is hilarious. He plays the bad guy. I mean, he cannot chew enough scenery at any. He's like, he's got all the scenery in his mouth and he is chewing it. Oh, Snidely. Oh, he's awesome. He is awesome. Anybody that plays a bad guy should have to watch this movie and see what he does with it. Totally worth
It's
that.
amazing.
Again, very cringy.
Well, that's
All of these movies, my top, my 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or 5, 4, 3, and 2 all have one thing in common. There's barely a female character in it, and the job they do is how would I say this? It is thankless. Any
Doc
female
Magnum
role,
Doc.
yeah, any female role in any of these top, these first 4 movies is thankless work. So they all have that in common.
Yes. Well, the best part of this is that first 10 minutes of this movie is what keeps you coming back because it
Yeah.
is nauseating.
Yeah, it is nauseating, and it is, and you're like, "Oh my god," and so you stay for the rest of it.
Yeah.
And
But
then
yeah,
John.
you and for John Lithgow, "You bastard!" Yes. Joe and I do that to each other all the time because
Mm,
you just can't help it. You can't help it.
exactly. My number 2, number 2
You said number 2.
is 2004, The Day After Tomorrow. This is a very good Earth Science Walkout. Again, you can watch it on Prime. And of course, if you're going to have a top 5 terrible, best terrible movies, you have to have a Roland Emmerich movie on it. And this is mine. It's starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Dennis Quaid. What can I say? New York gets flattened again. There's like tornadoes, tons of tornadoes in Los Angeles, giant hailstorms. I mean, it's just all the major cities get flattened.
So, yeah, I would disagree with you on this. I don't believe this is a guilty pleasure. I think this movie is amazing.
And then the bad guys are the wolves. That's what's hilarious. I'm
Oh,
like,
that's right, the wolves.
the escaped wolves from the Brooklyn Zoo. I was like, oh, just eat everybody. I'm Team Wolf.
Team Wolf. Gonna get you a T-shirt that says that.
Mhm.
And it's so funny because here we have Jake Gyllenhaal on your guilty pleasures list, and we're going to go right back to that Jake Gyllenhaal when we watch the new Roadhouse next month.
Exactly. So that might be, it might make my number, it might make my top five. Who knows? Something might get knocked off in place of Roadhouse, the sequel.
Ooh,
Woof. Woof.
woof, dog, woof.
My number
All right,
one best worst movie, number one best worst movie is Twister, 1996. You can watch it on Hulu right now, directed by Jean de Bont. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm sorry. I'm probably not.
Jan
It
de
is
Bont, yes.
starring Helen Hunt. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a female hero. Uh, and she does a pretty good job. And they didn't write her terribly. They didn't write her great, but they didn't write her terribly. Starring Helen Hunt, it was, she was a great female character for the 90s. It's like we couldn't
Agreed.
give her everything, but for the 90s, she was progressive. It stars Bill Paxton, rest in peace. Philip Seymour Hoffman, also rest in peace. Jamie Gertz, because we have to have a simpering woman somewhere. Carrie, what is it? Gilroy?
Elvis.
Thank you. If you're a fan of The Princess Bride, you would know him. And of course, Alan Ruck. Uh, totally quotable movie. It's actually got a halfway decent soundtrack,
It does.
which was cool. And then, it's a great Earth Science Walkout, all about weather and storm chasers. The thing is, though, iconically, this probably influenced, like Jurassic Park, it probably influenced a bunch of kids who saw it to get into weather, to get into storm chasing, to study the weather, because it's exciting and fun. Like I said, super quotable. The tornado is the bad guy. That's the real bad guy. So it's fun. It's a fun movie, and I can never pass. I know this movie by heart.
I do too. I can pretty much do all of the scenes, and I think this movie has aged pretty well. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
honestly, as far as, cringeworthy '90s movies go, there's not a lot of cringe in this other than the fact that the cast is completely white
Like white.
and, completely white, which is, again, not a real it's not a real, slice of what we are in America, but other than that, I would agree. This is one of those movies where, like, pick your favorite quote. I'm like, it's hard to because there are so many just fantastic quotes in it. And Philip Seymour Hoffman really steals this movie.
He does.
You walk out of this movie really remembering him more than anybody, which is great because he has many of the best lines.
Yeah.
He's gonna rue the day that he ever came up against the extreme imminent ruinage.
Roll the maps. There's a big line through Kansas. Roll the maps.
See, there you go. Hey, is Duncan with you today, Ann? Is Duncan back there?
He's on his way back from Traverse City. He went up to see his parents this weekend. So ETA is 6:30. So what is it? It's 6:23. So no, he's not
Well,
here yet.
can you tell him when you see him that I'm still waiting for my beer called Imminent Brewage? Could you please tell him that?
Yes,
And I
I
would
will.
like it and I want it to be called Janice's Imminent Brewage, and I'm just waiting.
Just waiting. We're gonna have Duncan on in a few weeks, 2 weeks. So you can tell him then yourself too.
Okay, good. I will because that's what I want. I want my own beer. I want it to be called Janice's Imminent Brewage, and I want it now.
Now it's gonna be a
Sorry.
good summer beer.
Exactly, and it'll be a light and crispy, refreshing cream ale.
Mhm.
So,
There you
I
go.
don't think I'm asking too much.
I don't think
So,
so either.
there.
I would drink that.
Nope. See, you would. You
Mhm.
would. Okay. Yeah, that's a great list, Ann Brothers, and I would say and again, I don't feel that Twister is a guilty pleasure. I just think it's a rocking movie, and it's nowhere near my list because I'm like, "No, no, this movie's amazing. It's amazing. It doesn't belong on a guilty pleasure list." So, we can agree to degree about that.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So
Alright,
here's my list of best worst runner-up movies. So movies that I will stop and watch no matter what, but they're not in my top five. So of course, Independence Day, lots of quotable stuff. What's his name? Quaid. He's not. It's not. Which Quaid is it?
it's Randy Quaid.
Randy Quaid. Randy Quaid. Hilarious. Will Smith at the height of his power. Yeah,
Yes.
all kinds of good stuff. It's we can hate aliens. We can all hate aliens. Air Force One. We can hate Russians again. So another excellent villain,
Oh,
twiddling.
weren't they Ukrainian? They were Ukrainian.
Ukrainian? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Or some other.
Deep,
They were one of the Akstans.
yeah, something. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
they were bad.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford, when he was still not too old. Um, Deep Blue Sea. If for nothing else, the what is it, Samuel L. Jackson monologue? Oh man, again, Team Shark. I am Team Shark. Eat all those fuckers. Go Shark, go. Here's another shark movie, The Meg. Again, Team Shark. Eat all of them. Some people would say this is a Christmas movie, but it's still a terrible best worst movie. Die Hard. Another awesome villain. Just totally. White House Down because this one made my list because I was at Jenny's house this week and I started watching. We all sat down and couldn't stop watching
I
it.
could stop watching it. I could stop watching it because I literally watched it like a half hour at a time for the next a half hour at a time for the next 3 days. And I'm like, I gotta go back and finish this movie because I'd never seen it from port to stern.
Oh man,
Yeah.
Jenny. This movie almost didn't make my runner-up list just because I love this movie so much. But Charlie Hunnam is so terrible of an actor, and the dialogue in this movie is cringy often. So I had to put Pacific Rim, even though Jenny, you and I would make the best. We would make the
Jaegers.
best Jaeger hunters ever, ever. So that's one of the problems I had with this movie is that it's fairly multicultural and cast, except for like most of the main characters. And it was like, damn, you could have done without any white men in this movie and it would have been just fine. In fact, the Jaeger fighters should have been two women because women are way better at communicating, psychically than men are.
Agreed.
So that's why it's a really awesome movie to look at. The premise is awesome. It's Guillermo del Toro, so and I love him as a director. This is probably his worst movie though, but I can't not watch it, even with Charlie Hunnam, who should never speak and never wear a shirt.
Yes. He's the young Jason Statham.
He is, and then of course Lake Placid for no other reason than Betty White.
Betty White is so good in that movie. It's
She is.
great.
I know. It's
Yes.
like awesome. So that's my best worst runner up movies. All of them are totally worth watching. It's like, oh, I have something to do today. Oh, never mind. I'm not getting anything done. Oh, I can fold
I'm gonna
laundry.
get Well, and that's the best part about these movies is that you end up seeing them enough where you don't really have to watch them. I will oftentimes put a movie on like this when I'm trying to get work done at home because then I can just be like doing my work and then watching these movies because I don't really have to watch it. I already know what's going to happen. So,
It's a treat for
uh,
my.
it's a treat for my brain. So I chose 5 movies that don't make me think stuff, and when you watch them, they will not make you think stuff either. So, hooray. So let's get right to it. My number 5, Tommy Boy. And again, this is the dumbest movie ever. And it's 1995. It's directed by Peter Siegel with Chris Farley, David Spade, Bo Derek, Rob Lowe, Brian Dennehy. And this was sort of Rob Lowe's comeback movie. He had that scandal where he was having sex with somebody during one of the presidential conventions. And this was kind of one of those movies that kind of paved the way back for him. This is Chris Farley's best movie. That's not saying much. This is streaming on Prime. There are too many amazing quotes for this movie to list. But the best scene is the puppet show where Tommy is trying to explain why to buy his product using 2 model cars. Here comes the meat wagon. Yeah. So anyway, Tommy Boy with Chris Farley. It just makes me laugh. It's the premise is great. Chris Farley is at the height of his powers in this movie. David Spade has every amazing sarcastic. The best lines in the movie actually come from David Spade, who is at his sarcastic, awful best. So yeah, I love this movie. Number 4, 2004's Walking Tall with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. So this movie came out in 2004, directed by Kevin Bray. This is one of The Rock's first movies And it's a remake of this movie that came out like 1972 or 1973, where The Rock he's an ex-army guy who's gone home to find that his hometown has been taken over by one of the local rich guys who closed down the wood mill and opened up a crooked casino. And then his character Chris Vaughn gets beat up at the casino, and then he runs for sheriff, and then he gets to be sheriff, and then he busts up the casino, and then he goes after the drug ring, and he does it all by himself except for his friend Johnny Knoxville, who's the local guy that was once a druggie. Yeah, it's
Wow.
dumb.
I
The
haven't seen this.
girl in it is
Now I want to see
again.
it.
Oh yeah, you absolutely want to see it. The girl is a stripper, with a heart of gold, and yeah, that's pretty
Mhm,
much it. So
mhm,
it's terrible, and
mhm.
I watch it every time it's on because The Rock.
'Cause The Rock,
So
I'm gonna watch it tonight. Are you kidding me?
there you go.
Mhm.
Let me see. Now the thing about Tommy Boy, there's one female character in Tommy Boy, and again, she's pretty sharp though, and in the end, she helps them save the day. So
Oh.
there's there's that. So there you go. My number three, Rocky Four.
Mm.
Oh yeah. All of the Rockies. So I really loved the first Rocky, and it's funny because the first Rocky was a Best Picture nominee. Sylvester Stallone was nominated for Best Director, all that. But then you had Rocky 2. But see, in the first Rocky, Rocky doesn't win the fight. So
Mm.
it's almost like America was outraged by this. And so they had to come back and make Rocky 2, where he wins the fight. And then, of course, Rocky 3, 4, and 5, it just kind of devolves from there. But Rocky 4 is the one with the Russian. And it is very, that 1985, directed by Sylvester Stallone, starring Stallone, Carl Weathers, who just died 2 days
That's
ago.
right. Yeah.
Um, Dolph Lundgren, Talia Shire, Brigitte Nielsen. And so you had this movie that is, it's funny. I was rewatching it today because it's been a while since I've watched it, and it's so funny because this movie is, 20 minutes of, the past, and then it's like 20 minutes montage, tiny bit of dialogue, 20-minute montage, a little bit of dialogue, 30-minute montage, fight, end of movie.
Let's stick to our strengths.
Montage. It's the best montage movie ever. If you want just movie that's just montages, you want Rocky 4.
The script is 6 pages long.
It is. It's like, Joe was telling me this the other day that Dolph Lundgren had, like, literally 27 lines in this movie, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense because he's too busy montaging." He's like,
Exactly.
"Russian montage, Rocky montage, Ivan Drago montage, Rocky montage." Yeah, it's just literally it's like a tennis match of montages.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, and I bet it's
Exactly.
got a rockin' soundtrack too.
Oh, it's bitchin'. It's his brother. His brother did the whole soundtrack. The soundtrack is Survivor and his brother. Joe Peters chimes in. He is commenting on my stripper comment. All strippers have hearts of gold. Hmm.
Mhm.
Okay, Joe. Thanks for that. You're probably right. So yeah, it's irresistible. It's rah rah. It's so dumb. The fighting in it is the stupidest fighting ever. Ivan Drago would have killed Rocky like 8 times during that fight. Yeah, it's just terrible. Just a
Mhm.
god awful movie. And every time it's on, I'm like, oh, Rocky Four. Go
Awesome.
America.
Go
America
America.
rules. Exactly. All right, my number two movie. Haha. Oh my, this one absolutely made my list. Air Force One. Oops, I got the date wrong on that. That's supposed to say 1997, not 1987. Directed by Wolfgang Peterson, starring Harrison Ford, Gary Oldman, Glenn Close. What's funny is that when you go on IMDb and Wikipedia and look up this movie, Glenn Close doesn't really even make the list of being in this movie, even though she plays the vice president.
I totally forgot she was in it, Jenny, other than the line, "As you sweat through your silk blouse."
Through a silk blouse. I know she's working so hard at this movie too. So yeah, basically the way this movie works is that Gary Oldman is playing some character that's part of this thing with the stuff, and he's the bad guy, and he takes over Air Force One through some clever
Mhm,
work because he's got a secret service agent that's helping him. And
mhm.
then they take over the plane, and then there's all this stuff, and again, stuff that's physically impossible to do with a plane that's traveling at 600 miles an hour. But nobody cares about that. All you care about is at the very end when Harrison Ford punches out the bad guys, like, get off my plane. So, yeah,
USA,
yes,
USA. Yeah.
which is the best quote in the movie. The best quote in Rocky 4 is when they're about ready to fight, and Ivan Drago's like, I must break you. And then he doesn't. He
And then he
doesn't
does.
break Rocky. Rocky
Mhm.
breaks him because that's what Rocky does.
Yeah.
I must break you. All right. Get off my plane. So again, you know, both of these movies like their Eastern European bad guys.
Mhm.
So there you go.
There you
Yep.
go.
All right. And my number one, and this is a no-brainer for me, my best. Oh, wait, where's my oops, I must have put them in the wrong order. Oh,
Oh,
there it is. My best worst movie is Roadhouse. It is now and always will be my favorite guilty pleasure movie. And honestly, I believe this to be the number one guilty pleasure movie of all time, regardless of who you are. It is. It's the best one. 1989, the original. There is a remake that's coming out here next month, and I will watch it. Absolutely. How can I not? Come on.
mhm.
That way we can do an entire show on that and doing a compare and contrast. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because I will spend so much time talking about this next month. 1989 is currently streaming on Max. It is directed by Rowdy Harrington, whoever the fuck that is, starring Patrick Swayze, Sam Elliott, and I'm a little bit concerned because in watching the trailer and looking at the cast list for the 2004 remake, there
Mhm.
does not appear to be a Sam Elliott character, otherwise known as Wade Garrett, in this movie. So I'm concerned about that.
Me too.
Ben Gazzara, who is again a ridiculously bad guy. Kelly Lynch, hot doctor in her little country tablecloth dress. My favorite quote, and again, in a movie that is very quotable, is be nice until it's time to not be nice. You know,
There you go.
that's when he's giving his spiel about how to be a bouncer, and his 3 rules. Rule
Cooler,
number
Jenny.
1.
Cooler. He's a
That's right.
cooler.
He's telling his bouncers how to be a bouncer. And then we learned that he's not a bouncer, he's a cooler. And I learned the difference between a bouncer and a cooler. So, yeah.
There you
Yes.
go.
I
Mhm.
learned a lot about the bar business just watching this movie. So, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm an expert now, you know.
Yeah. I think you are.
It's true. So yeah, so that's my number one guilty pleasure movie, and part of it is that I fell in love with this movie because the timing was perfect. I was a freshman in college. I'd finished my finals. Here I am. There's still a couple of days of school left. I'm already done with my finals. I don't have to study. I go down to Goddard because I lived in Goddard Hall, which is one of the honors dorms. I go down to the lobby. They're having their Monday movie night, and there's popcorn and it's free. And so, yeah, I'm like, yeah, why not? Why not go watch this terrible movie? And it was terrible. And I stayed for every second of it because I'm like, why wouldn't I?
Exactly. I'm tired of thinking. I guess what? I don't have to think. Oh no. Why do
Yeah,
you have
there is literally no thinking. And in fact, you don't want to overthink this movie because as soon as you start to overthink it, you're not going to enjoy it. So don't do that to yourself. Don't try to outthink this movie. It's stupid. That's dumb of you to do that. So, as far as my best worst runners up, I chose all of the Has Fallen movies because as those of you that have been listening to us for a while know that Ann and I have a mild obsession with Gerard Butler.
Mhm.
So I couldn't, but it's hard to pick which one. I think obviously Olympus Has Fallen is the best one, but London Has Fallen is not bad. It's not
Not bad.
good. But,
Mm-mm.
if I'm comparing those 3 movies, then of course Angel Has Fallen is the last one, which is not great at all. I went with Rocky 3 on that list because Rocky 3 is one of the greatest love stories ever told between Apollo and Rocky. It really is. That scene where they're running on the beach together and, it's just so beautiful. God.
Mhm.
Let's see. Replacements, which is a Keanu Reeves football movie, which is not well. It's again dumb fun. Major League, which is a terrible baseball movie, which is super cringeworthy. A lot of misogynist,
Oh
racist shit that goes on in
yeah,
that movie.
but funny.
Uh, but funny, yes, very funny, very quotable. Any Given Sunday, which is Oliver Stone's take on the NFL. And part of my issue with that movie is that it's Al Pacino at his yelling worst. I can remember when Al Pacino used to be a good actor because he would just act. You look at his work in The Godfather and The Godfather 2, and then somewhere somebody flipped a switch in him, and then all he does is yell his way through movies. And Any Given Sunday, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of Al Pacino yelling, which is not great.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Let's see, The Expendables, which is pretty much you could probably take most Sylvester Stallone movies and put them on this list. The Expendables was sort of his comeback movie again with Dolph Lundgren and Jason Statham and all that crowd. A Cliffhanger, Bloodsport, because I felt it was wrong not to have a John Claude Van Damme movie, so I went with both Bloodsport and Universal Soldier on that because I can't Universal Soldier. I love that movie. I went with Anaconda, and I did kind of think about this, that a lot of my choices are sort of these male-oriented action movies, and I'm like, but wait a second, I have a couple of female-driven guilty pleasure movies, and the number one is Eat, Pray, Love. That's a Julia Roberts movie that came out a number of years ago. It's about a book, and it's a not. I don't love the story. I think it's look at the sad, self-indulgent white woman. But I get that. I don't wanna be super judgy on that. Everybody has their thing, but there's this the whole time she's in Italy, because she's, like, in Italy, she's in Bali, she's in, India. I particularly like this the time that she's in Italy because you basically just get to watch her eat for 40 minutes. Like, I love that.
See,
Look at that.
I thought it was a poor choice to have Julie Roberts because I'm like, "Ugh, she doesn't eat anything. She can't. She's an actress."
I know, I was like, I really want to have, a regular looking person such as myself eating in Italy. But yeah, so I don't love that movie, but I like that. I will watch that movie because I like to watch her eat in Italy.
Italy.
There you
Mm,
go.
fair enough.
I also like the other guilty pleasure movie I have, it's a chick movie, is Under the Tuscan Sun with Diane Lane,
Oh, I
and
was
it's
thinking as soon as you said like Eat, Pray, Love, I thought of Under the Tuscan Sun.
well, and I like it, and the reason I like that movie is I like the woman that plays the English woman in it. The
Hmm.
older English woman who's just living the life and becomes her friend, and I really like her character, and I'm like, I want let hang out with her more, show more of her. She's the fun one.
Mhm.
So those would fall under those that guilty pleasure type movie itself, and, so yeah, wait, hang on.
Mhm.
Liz says not one musical, or is that a different show?
I think that's a
I
different show because I these are movies that I think are bad, but I still like to watch them. And the musicals that I do like to watch movie wise, I think are good movies. Like like Chicago or what else am I thinking? What's her name? Liza Minnelli. Cabaret.
Cabaret. Yeah.
So I was like, most of the if I'm going to watch a musical, it's usually a movie I like. But I don't know, Jenny, you watch more musicals than I do.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Most of the musicals that I like, I just think are really good movies. Sound of
Mhm.
Music, the South Park movie, which is one of my favorite musicals ever.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh man. That
I
is
know. It is a music, but let's be clear. It is a musical. So, yeah, so I would say that for the most part, most of the musicals that I can't think of a musical that I would put on this list
Mhm. Yeah, because I
because
usually
I
think
think
they're pretty good movie. They're good movies.
yeah. So, ooh,
Yeah.
Seven Brides for Seven Brothers is out. Oh yeah, I would never watch that movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've never watched that musical, so
And,
I
and
wouldn't.
again, yeah, but as part of my criteria for a guilty pleasure movie, it has to be something that will stop me I mean, it'll stop me on a busy day and get me just sitting and watching it, and, uh, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers is not that movie.
I was gonna say, what was it? Oh man, remember when we tried to watch West Side Story?
Oh, yes.
I was like, "Oh, hey Jenny, let's watch this. We've never watched it before. It's a classic." We made it through like 15 minutes. I'm like, "Oh, this is the worst thing I've ever seen."
The the whole fight scene between the Sharks and the Jets, yeah. I'm like, What the actual fuck is happening?"
I was like, "What the hell is going on here? I could take all of these dudes."
Yeah, I'm like, "I don't believe any of those men are gangsters at all."
Not at all.
They're such good dancers, though.
I know. It's like, but yeah, in order to make this list, they had to be terrible, terribly watchable. So,
Yes. Yes, and I think I think these lists accomplish that
mhm.
thing. So yeah, so I think, that pretty much wraps up our list of our guilty pleasure movies, and again, we can run through these real quick. Anne's, we'll go ahead and show Anne's real quick. Anne's top 5,
Are
there
The
they
Rock,
are.
The Day After Tomorrow, Twister's my number one, Cliffhanger, and Olympus Has Fallen. Terribly watchable.
Terribly, terribly watchable. My top 5 terribly watchable movies. Oops, I messed that up. Boop. There they are. Tommy Boy, Walking Tall, Rocky 4, Air Force One, and of course, Roadhouse. Movies that don't make you think about stuff. They won't make me think about stuff, and they won't make you think about stuff. So that's, that's
You
a
can
nice thing.
literally forget them while you're watching it.
I love movies like that. I just watched a movie. Oh yeah, I was I'm like, wait a second, I was just doing that. I was literally just watching a movie that I was forgetting about, and it was White House Down. Literally forgetting about that movie as I was watching it, which is probably a good thing. So,
Yeah.
what was the kid was super annoying. See, that's one of the reasons that
Mhm.
Olympus Has Fallen is better than White House Down. And it's again, it's one of those movies that Hollywood has this habit of putting two movies out at the same time that are similar.
Mhm.
Um, Armageddon, Deep Impact. Uh, what's the other one? There's another one.
Dante's Peak and some other
Oh,
vol
Dante's Peak and Volcano, that's the other
yeah.
one, and then this one, White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen, and Olympus Has Fallen is definitely the superior movie. The kid is not nearly as annoying as the
Mhm.
kid in White House Down.
Yeah, the kid in White House Down had a much more central role, and I was like, "Oof, oof." I have a
Oh,
problem with children being in entertainment anyway because I think it's a little predatory. I'm not saying that they don't do a good job, but I just think it's a little predatory to put that much pressure on somebody who is not an adult. So, yeah, I was like, if you're gonna have a child in a movie, they should have a very minor role. It's like, get the plot furthered, but don't make them the center of the action.
which I think is that's an excellent point for sure.
Mhm.
For sure. So, yeah, there they are. This year's guilty pleasure movies, and we would love to hear your, responses as well, so feel free to tell us your guilty pleasure
Mhm.
movies in the comments, when we drop on Spotify later. That will probably be our poll question. What do you think makes a really good guilty pleasure movie?
Mhm.
And, of course, we would love to know what your guilty pleasure movies are. As far as stuff for next week, our official sneak peek at next week, as you know, Valentine's Day is upon us soon, which
Mhm.
I think is one of the dumber holidays out there, but, it's a good it's as good a reason as any to enjoy some chocolate. So next week, we are talking about chocolate.
Mhm.
We are getting you ready for Valentine's Day, and we're giving you something to do before the super sports game. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Because super sports. Will be on before. I don't even know what time does the sporting start. It usually starts
I
late, doesn't it?
think this year's game starts around 6, so should we what, kick off about 5 o'clock?
Sure, let's do that. That way people can watch the sporting afterwards.
You can watch the sportsing afterwards. Yeah, really and I'm not super interested in this year's Super Bowl. Like I said, it would have been awesome if the Lions could have gotten themselves there. But I always like to watch for the commercials, and I'm trying to remember who this halftime guest is this year. It's not somebody
Usher?
else. Usher, that's it. That's
Oh,
it.
hey, look at me
Yeah,
knowing
and so I'm not a huge fan of Usher. Actually, my favorite recently was when they had Dre and Eminem and Mary J. Blige and those guys on. That was a great halftime show. Did you happen to watch that?
no, because I don't care.
Yeah, it was, Snoop Dogg, and they basically just they busted out the hip hop, or the kind of a hip hop from the '90s, and it was really, really great. It was entertaining, it was fun, it was cool. And, yeah, I'll tell you what, even though our favorite hip hop artists from the '90s are all in their 40s and 50s now, I can still throw down. It was really fun to watch.
There you go. Like, see, even
Yay!
hip hop artists become not cool eventually. Even they end up in their 50s.
They end up in their 50s. I don't know, I think Snoop Dogg is one of the coolest people ever. He's made quite a career for himself, you know?
Oh, he
You know,
does just
he's
fine
best
for himself. Mhm.
yeah, because he's besties with Martha Stewart now. Who'da thunk?
Look, like, right. He's a
Totally.
renaissance
Well,
man.
he is a renaissance man, and I love that about him. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're talking about chocolate. So you guys not what we'll end up talking about, we'll end up talking about, botanically, what's going on with chocolate, historically, the importance of chocolate, and then we're actually visiting a couple of chocolatiers here in the Kalamazoo area, coming up this week, and we'll give you the lowdown on some of those things as well. So everything you've ever wanted to know about chocolate, but we're too afraid to ask. So
Yay!
there you
Chocolate.
go. Chocolate. And would you like to talk to people about how they can support us for free?
Oh, sure. You can support us for free by liking us, following us, subscribing to us on Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, or the YouTube. So all you have to do is, click the thumbs up if you're on Facebook, or ring that bell and follow us if you're on or on Spotify. YouTube, is it thumbs up as well? I don't know. I don't watch very much.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Very good. Instagram, I'm not sure. Wow, is there fireworks behind me, Jenny Brothers?
I didn't do that.
Oh, I don't know who did it, but it was whoever did it. Thanks.
That was amazing. I have no idea how that happened, but
I have no idea
yay.
how that happened either. So anyway, those are things that you can do for free and support us. It costs you nothing. So put the word out to your friends and family to like us, follow us, subscribe, and tell them to do the same with other people. Just word of mouth. Keep going. Keep spreading the
That's right.
word. Mm-hmm.
Spread the word, yo. That's fantastic. All right. Well, that is our show for this week. Thank you for coming on and hanging out with us. We, like I said, we'll be back next week. I'm going to go ahead and start putting on our amazing music. I think
yay.
I got to decide which one. We're going to go with the dance pop one because
Okay.
that's the. Here we go. Hang on, bringing it in.
I'm waiting.
I know.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the one.
this is the one.
Coolness.
It is, and this is the one that also has the overly long it takes for
Drop.
the to drop the beat. So we'll just keep talking until the beat actually drops. So we will be back next week. We'll be talking about chocolate.
Yay.
So yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm Jenny Brothers.
I'm Ann Brothers.
We are the Brother Sisters. You've been watching Smart, Dumb, Fun. Have a great night, everybody.
Hey, do something smart. Do something fun. Do something dumb.